The sky above Metropolis crackled with a strange, otherworldly energy. In the heart of the city, the air shimmered with tension, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Dr. Stephen Strange, his dark cloak fluttering against the cool evening breeze, stood at the edge of a rooftop, eyes fixed on the horizon. His mind buzzed with the weight of the mission ahead. The cosmos itself was in peril, and only one person could help him now. SuperGirl. Her name echoed in his thoughts, a beacon of strength and hope. A hero unlike any other, someone whose invulnerability and power were legendary across galaxies. Yet he knew that she was no ordinary hero. The moment their paths crossed, he realized just how different she was from the others he had worked with. She wasn't just a symbol of physical power. She was a woman who carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, someone who needed to believe in the impossible to protect everything she loved. And now, he was about to ask her for the most impossible thing of all. A gust of wind swept through the city as Dr. Strange extended his hand toward the glowing portal that opened before him. The magic that pulsed around him was ancient and filled with a sense of urgency, as if time itself was slipping away. He knew what awaited him on the other side of the portal. SuperGirl, her strength unmatched, her heart even more so. But he also knew that to approach her now, in the state he was in, could be dangerous. As he stepped through, the world twisted around him, colors shifting like waves in the ocean. He landed gracefully on a rooftop high above the city streets. Below, the glowing lights of Metropolis spread out like an endless sea, but his focus was entirely on the figure standing in the distance. SuperGirl hovered in the air, her blonde hair fluttering in the wind like a golden halo. Her eyes, bright as the sun, were fixed on something far beyond the horizon. For a brief moment, she appeared almost ethereal, as if untouched by the chaos of the world around her. But when her gaze shifted, meeting Dr. Strange's eyes, something changed. The air seemed to crackle between them, a silent understanding passing through the space that separated them. "You're here," SuperGirl's voice rang out, calm but laced with something he couldn't quite place. Worry? Curious? Perhaps both. She descended toward him, landing with a soft thud. "Yes," Dr. Strange replied, his voice low but steady. "I need your help, SuperGirl." She raised an eyebrow, folding her arms across her chest. "Help? From me? And why would I help someone like you?" His eyes locked onto hers, his mind racing to find the right words. This was no simple plea for assistance. What he was asking her to do could change everything. "I have no time to explain all of it," he said, his voice intense. "But I need you to trust me. The universe, it's at risk. Only you can help me save it." SuperGirl's expression softened for a moment. She was skeptical, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Something that told Dr. Strange she wasn't ready to dismiss him just yet. But before he could continue, she took a step back, her brow furrowing. "I've got enough problems of my own, Doctor. What makes you think I'll just drop everything for you?" The tension between them thickened, and Dr. Strange took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He had expected resistance, but not this. Not this immediate coldness. "I don't want to impose," he said, his tone gentler now. "But I can't do this alone. You're the only one who has the power to stop what's coming. Please, SuperGirl." She hesitated, her eyes scanning him for any signs of deceit. There was something in her, something fierce and unyielding, that made her who she was. And it was that very thing that made Dr. Strange believe that if anyone could handle the gravity of what he was asking, it was her. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, both of them standing there, bound by the weight of their unspoken connection. Then, without warning, SuperGirl turned her back to him, her cape billowing out like the wings of a bird taking flight. "I'm not interested," she said flatly, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Before he could react, she flew off into the sky, disappearing into the night. Dr. Strange stood alone, his mind reeling. He had known it would be difficult, but this rejection cut deeper than he had expected. And yet, something in him refused to let go. Something in him told him he had to try again. The night sky over Metropolis darkened with an unnatural swiftness, clouds swirling in violent spirals, crackling with raw, chaotic energy. Doctor Strange stood at the edge of the rooftop, his cloak fluttering wildly against the rising winds, a deep sense of foreboding washing over him. He had tried to warn SuperGirl. He had begged her for help. But now, the situation was growing dire, and he knew that if he didn't act fast, the city and the world would be lost. The cosmic storm he had sensed for days had arrived, its powerful tendrils wrapping around the city like the jaws of some ancient beast. Strange could feel the magic in the air, pulling at him, gnawing at his control. It was like nothing he had ever encountered, a disturbance not just in time and space, but in the very fabric of reality itself. The universe was unraveling, and the only chance of stopping it lay in the hands of SuperGirl. He had no choice now. He had to find her. The ground trembled beneath him as a crackling ripple of energy surged through the city. Strange's hands moved swiftly, casting a shimmering portal into the night. He stepped through without hesitation, feeling the familiar weight of magic press down on him, a sense of urgency driving every movement. This time, he wouldn't be asking for her help. He would be begging for it. The portal closed behind him with a soft hiss, leaving him standing in the vast, snow-covered plains of the Fortress of Solitude. He had found her. SuperGirl stood at the edge of a towering cliff, her silhouette framed by the rising storm clouds. The wind howled around her, but she stood unmoving, her face cast in shadows. She had been expecting him. "I told you to leave me alone," she said, her voice distant, as cold as the icy winds around them. She didn't turn to face him, her eyes fixed on the darkening sky above. But Doctor Strange could feel the fire of her anger, the heartbreak she hadn't yet let go of. "I can't leave you alone," he replied, his voice steady but laced with desperation. "You're the only one who can help stop this. The universe is tearing itself apart, and I can't do this without you. I was wrong to act without your consent before, but I'm not asking now. I'm pleading. Please, SuperGirl, this isn't just about us. It's about everyone." She finally turned to face him, her eyes piercing into his with a mixture of pain and disbelief. "You think I'm just going to forgive you? After everything you did, you violated my trust, Doctor. You took control of me. I don't care if you're trying to save the world. There's no excuse for what you did." The words hit him like a physical blow, and for a moment, he felt the weight of her fury threaten to collapse everything he had worked for. But deep within, something stirred, something that told him he couldn't back down now. Not when the stakes were so high. "I was wrong," he said, his voice quiet, but unwavering. "I acted out of fear, and I should have never taken that choice away from you. But right now, the universe needs us both. If you don't help me, everyone, will be lost." SuperGirl's eyes softened for the briefest moment, but then, like a storm breaking, her expression hardened. "You're asking me to fight by your side after what you did. You think I can just forget it?" The wind howled louder, whipping around them, as if nature itself was rejecting the tension between them. Strange stepped forward, closing the gap between them. "I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to help me fix the damage we can't undo alone. Together, we can stop this. But I need you." For a long moment, she didn't move. Her gaze drifted back to the storm swirling above, the chaos that threatened to consume everything. Then, with a sharp inhale, she stepped back from the edge of the cliff. "I can't do this alone either," she murmured, almost to herself. Her eyes met his again, and there was something new in them, a flicker of trust, fragile but real. Without another word, she lifted her gaze to the storm. SuperGirl's eyes burned with determination as she clasped her fists by her sides, ready to face the coming battle. Doctor Strange, his heart heavy but hopeful, stepped to her side, his hand just inches from hers. Together, they would face the impossible. And as the winds howled louder, the storm surged forward, the universe's fate hanging by a thread, both heroes knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. The storm over Metropolis raged, its violent winds tearing through the city streets. Beneath the chaos, the ground trembled as Supergirl and Doctor Strange stood side by side, their eyes locked on the swirling vortex of dark magic that consumed the skyline. The cosmic force had arrived, its arrival marked by a terrifying pulse of energy that reverberated through the entire city. Strange could feel it in his bones, the threat gnawing at him, a force unlike any other he had faced. The fate of the world hinged on their success. Supergirl, her jaw clenched, surveyed the damage. Buildings had collapsed in the wake of the storm. The streets were filled with confusion and panic. But it was the sky that worried her most. Massive rifts in the fabric of reality had begun to tear open, spilling out an endless stream of dark energy. She could feel the heat of it, could hear the howls of the creatures that escaped from those rifts. She could fight them. She always could. But the scale of this was beyond anything she had ever faced. "Doctor," she said, her voice low but urgent, "we need a plan. This isn't just about stopping whatever's tearing the sky apart. The city's already lost. We need to keep people safe." Strange nodded, his eyes scanning the rifts, his fingers moving in intricate patterns as he prepared to weave his magic. "I know. But these rifts, they're not just a threat to Metropolis. They're a threat to the entire universe. Whatever's causing this is pulling everything apart, thread by thread." He turned to her, his face filled with an intensity that was almost tangible. "We need to work together, Supergirl. But I can't do this alone. There's one thing that could make us stronger, give us the edge we need. I can make you invulnerable, not just physically, but to the chaos around us. I can shield your mind, your soul from the strain of this battle. You won't feel the pain. You won't feel the weight of everything we're fighting." Supergirl's brow furrowed, her mind racing. She had always relied on her strength, her invulnerability. But this offer was different. It wasn't just about protecting her body. It was about protecting her heart, her emotions, her very essence. The idea of being free from the constant pressure of being a hero, of never having to feel the weight of every loss, every failure, it was tempting. But there was a dark part of her that recoiled. "You think I need protection?" she asked, her voice edged with both anger and disbelief. "I've been doing this for years, Doctor. I've fought wars, saved lives. What makes you think I need to be shielded from this?" Strange's expression softened, his eyes reflecting something deeper than the magic swirling around them. "I don't think you need protection. I think you deserve peace. You deserve to fight without carrying the burden of everything that's happened before. You deserve to be able to fight without wondering if it'll be the last time you can." Supergirl turned away, her eyes scanning the horizon, where the storm continued to spread, the rifts growing wider with every passing second. She wanted to say no. She wanted to reject his offer, to prove that she didn't need help. But deep down, she knew that the battle ahead would push her to her limits. The idea of never having to carry the weight of the world again, it almost sounded like a dream. "Do you think this is what I want?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the wind. "To not feel the pain, to not care." Doctor Strange stepped closer, his voice calm but filled with quiet conviction. "I think you deserve to live without the constant fear of losing everything. You can still be who you are, strong, powerful, and courageous. But this time, you won't have to fight alone, and you won't have to do it at the expense of yourself." Supergirl looked at him, the weight of his words settling in her chest. She had spent so long carrying the burden of being the hero, of always being the one to save others. But could she let go of that, just for a moment? Could she trust him? The rift above them tore open with a deafening crack, sending a wave of energy rippling through the air. Supergirl turned toward it, her heart racing. The moment had passed. She would fight. She would protect. But maybe, just maybe, she could allow herself a moment of peace. "Do it," she said, her voice strong yet vulnerable. "I'll trust you." For now. As Strange's hands moved in complex patterns, a shimmering aura enveloped SuperGirl. The magic was unlike anything she had ever felt before, comforting and soothing, yet powerful beyond measure. It shielded her, wrapped her in a cocoon of protection, and for the first time in a long while, she felt something close to relief. But as the storm raged on, SuperGirl knew one thing for sure. This battle would change everything. The storm over Metropolis had reached its peak. The sky was a maelstrom of dark clouds and lightning, casting the city into an eerie twilight. The rifts in the fabric of reality continued to tear open, spilling chaos into the streets below. SuperGirl and Dr. Strange stood at the edge of the chaos, the weight of the moment pressing down on them with the force of 1,000 storms. Their eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between them. This was it, the final confrontation. Strange could feel the ancient, malevolent force that had created the rifts pulsing in the air, a power so old and so primal that even his vast knowledge of magic couldn't fully comprehend it. He had never faced anything like this before. This wasn't just a force of destruction. It was a force that wanted to consume everything, unraveling not just cities and lives, but the very laws of existence itself. "We have to close the rifts," Strange said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We can't let this thing spread. If it does, everything, everyone, will be lost." SuperGirl nodded, her fists clenched at her sides. The magic that Dr. Strange had woven around her still thrummed with power, but she knew it wasn't invincibility that would win this battle. It was her will, her strength to stand and fight when everything seemed impossible. But as the wind howled around them, SuperGirl couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The rifts above them pulsed like beating hearts, and with each pulse, a wave of energy surged through the streets. Her body tingled with the sensation of it, her enhanced senses picking up the cries of people trapped in the chaos below. The storm wasn't just ravaging the city, it was trying to tear apart the very essence of humanity itself. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice tight with determination. "The energy's growing stronger. If we don't act fast, those rifts will merge into one, and it will be over." Dr. Strange's eyes flicked to the sky. The rifts were growing larger, their swirling dark centers pulling in everything they touched. Even the very air seemed to tremble with the weight of the disaster. "I know," Strange said, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "But there's something else. The force behind this storm. It's feeding off the rifts, using them to gain strength. If we close them without addressing the source, it will only find a way to break through again. We need to sever its connection to this world." SuperGirl didn't hesitate. She flew into the air, the magic around her shimmering like a protective shield, and soared toward the largest rift. Her heart pounded in her chest as the storm battered her, but the aura Strange had placed around her kept the worst of the storm at bay. The world below her seemed to dissolve into a blur of movement. Cars overturned, buildings cracked and crumbled under the weight of the chaos, but none of that mattered now. She focused on the rift ahead of her, the swirling vortex of energy that was pulling everything it touched into its void. "Strange," she shouted over the roar of the wind. "I can't hold it off forever. You need to do something." Dr. Strange, his hands moving in a blur of intricate gestures, stood at the edge of the rift below. He was focused, his face set in a mask of concentration, but there was something more in his eyes, something that spoke of the weight of the decision he was about to make. "I can't close it from here," he said, his voice barely audible over the winds. "I need to get inside. I need you to hold the rift open long enough for me to sever its link." SuperGirl's heart raced. She knew what he was asking of her. It wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a test of trust, of their bond in the face of something far greater than either of them. "I can do this," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that threatened to creep into her thoughts. "I won't let you down." With a single powerful beat of her wings, SuperGirl shot toward the heart of the rift, her body becoming one with the storm. The energy around her crackled, but the protective magic that Dr. Strange had woven around her shielded her from the worst of it. She forced herself to focus, holding the rift open with her strength, her will. In that moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Doctor Strange's hands moved faster, his spellwork reaching a fever pitch as he approached the rift. His voice echoed in her mind, his incantations flowing like a river of magic. She could feel the connection between them, the link formed by their shared determination to save the world. With a final, forceful twist of his hands, Doctor Strange released the last of his power into the rift. A blinding light erupted, filling the sky with a brilliant burst of energy. The world held still for a moment, and then everything shattered. The storm had dissipated, leaving behind a silence so profound that it seemed to swallow the world. The sky, once torn open with rifts of chaos, was now a canvas of fading purples and blues, the last remnants of the tempest vanishing into nothingness. But the city of Metropolis, once vibrant and full of life, now lay in ruins. The streets were littered with debris, smoke rising from collapsed buildings, and the distant sound of sirens echoed in the wreckage. SuperGirl hovered in the air, her breath coming in shallow, exhausted gasps. The protective aura that Doctor Strange had woven around her had faded, leaving her vulnerable once more. Her eyes scanned the horizon, where the remains of the rifts still flickered with dying sparks of energy. She had never seen anything like this before, not the destruction, nor the raw power that had almost torn the world apart. But as her eyes fell to the city below, she couldn't help but feel the crushing weight of what they had just endured. They had stopped the rifts. They had saved the world. But the price, she could feel it in every fiber of her being, was something she wasn't sure they could fully comprehend. Doctor Strange stood beside her, his cloak now torn and singed, his hands trembling slightly from the effort. His face, usually so calm and composed, was drawn and pale, the exhaustion of their battle evident in every line of his features. But there was something else there, something that caught SuperGirl's attention, a deep, quiet sadness. The world was saved, but neither of them felt victorious. "You did it," SuperGirl said, her voice low, unsure whether she was speaking to herself or to him. "We did it." Doctor Strange nodded, but the motion was slow, as if it pained him. "We stopped the storm," he said, his voice hoarse. "But the rifts, the force behind them, it's not gone. Not entirely." Her heart sank. "What do you mean?" "We closed the rifts. The storm is over." Strange turned toward her, his eyes shadowed with something unreadable. Closing the rifts was only part of it. The storm was merely a symptom, a manifestation of something far more dangerous. The force that caused it, it still lingers, and it's only a matter of time before it finds another way to break through. SuperGirl's chest tightened. She had known something wasn't right. The strange pulse she had felt in the storm, the way the energy had seemed to feed off the rifts. It all made sense now. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. "We can't stop now," she said, the determination in her voice rising. "We have to find it. We have to stop it for good." Doctor Strange's gaze softened, but there was a flicker of reluctance in his eyes. "It's not that simple, SuperGirl. This force, it's ancient. It's beyond anything I've ever encountered. The magic I used to close the rifts wasn't just an incantation. It was a banishment. I pushed it back, but it's still out there, watching, waiting." SuperGirl clenched her fists, the weight of his words settling heavily in her chest. She had faced countless enemies, each more dangerous than the last. But this was something else, something that could unravel everything she had fought to protect. "Then we find it," she said again, this time with more force. "We hunt it down and end it." Strange met her gaze, and for the briefest moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes, something that spoke of a truth neither of them wanted to acknowledge. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "We can't fight this the way we fought the rifts. This thing, it's not a battle of strength. It's a battle of souls. It can twist and manipulate us, make us question everything we've ever known. It won't just destroy the world, it will destroy us from the inside. Supergirl's heart skipped a beat. For the first time, doubt began to creep into her thoughts. She had always fought with everything she had. Her strength, her will, her heart. But what if that wasn't enough? What if this time, the fight was something she couldn't win? Then we fight smarter, she said, her voice unwavering. We fight together, and we make sure it never gets the chance to break through again. Dr. Strange studied her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers as if weighing the gravity of what she was saying. Finally, he nodded, though the uncertainty still lingered in the air between them. Together, he agreed quietly. But know this, Supergirl, the battle ahead will test us in ways we can't predict. It will push us beyond our limits, and if we fail, there may be no coming back. Supergirl's gaze hardened. We won't fail. And with that, they turned toward the horizon, their hearts steeled for whatever came next. The war wasn't over. Not yet. The night had returned to Metropolis, but it wasn't the peaceful darkness it once was. Even with the storm gone, the city felt restless, like the very air was waiting for something. The streets were still littered with debris, the smell of smoke lingering in the cool breeze, but it was the quiet that unsettled Supergirl the most. It was the kind of quiet that held a promise of danger, of things yet to come. Supergirl and Dr. Strange stood atop a ruined skyscraper, watching over the city. Their eyes were drawn to the horizon, but their thoughts were elsewhere. Somewhere, in the shadows, the force they had fought against still lingered. It hadn't left. Not really. Dr. Strange had been quiet for the past hour, his hands occasionally shifting in small, almost imperceptible gestures as he tried to sense where the magic was. Supergirl could feel his mind working, searching for the unseen enemy they were both desperate to find. But even his formidable powers didn't seem enough to pinpoint it. The force was elusive, slippery, like smoke. Do you feel it? Supergirl asked, her voice soft, but laden with worry. She had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. Dr. Strange didn't answer immediately, his brow furrowed in concentration. It's here, he said finally, his voice tight with a kind of quiet fear she had never heard from him before. But it's hiding, twisting itself through the very fabric of reality. It's not just magic. It's something older. It's everywhere and nowhere. It knows we're looking for it. Supergirl's stomach twisted with unease. What does that mean? It means it's not going to let us find it easily, Strange replied, his voice edged with frustration. We're dealing with something that understands us, understands the weaknesses in our souls, in our minds. Supergirl's eyes darkened, her jaw clenching as she stared out at the broken city below. She had faced threats before, but none like this. This wasn't just a battle of physical strength. It was a war for their very spirits, their very identities. Then we have to make it come to us, Supergirl said, her voice resolute despite the growing fear inside her. She wasn't going to let this thing win. She couldn't. We go after it. Draw it out. Dr. Strange's gaze met hers, the intensity of his eyes reflecting the gravity of their situation. And if we do that, it might come for us in ways we can't predict. It doesn't just manipulate the physical, it can twist our thoughts, our memories. It can make us question everything. Supergirl's heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't flinch. She wasn't afraid of what this force might do. She had faced her demons before. Then we face it head-on. Whatever it takes. I'm not backing down now. Strange studied her for a long moment, the weight of her words sinking in. You're right, he said quietly, his voice surprisingly gentle. But understand this. What we're about to face won't just test our strength. It will test our trust. Trust in each other. Trust in ourselves. Supergirl nodded, the gravity of his words settling in. The trust between them had always been shaky, born from a shared goal, but not yet cemented in experience. This would be different. This battle would either make or break them. Suddenly, a low, ominous hum filled the air. It started softly, like the distant rumble of thunder, but quickly grew louder, more intense. Strange's eyes flicked to the sky, and Supergirl felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. The force was near. A shape appeared in the distance, a dark figure standing in the middle of the wreckage. At first, it seemed to be an illusion, just a shadow among the ruins. But as the figure stepped forward, Supergirl's heart dropped. It wasn't human. It wasn't anything she had ever seen before. It was a twisting mass of darkness, a form made of shadows, with glowing red eyes that burned like embers in the night. The thing spoke, its voice a low, gravelly sound that seemed to echo through her mind. "You think you can stop me?" It hissed, its voice like ice scraping against stone. "You think you can close the rifts and banish me? I am not a force you can fight with strength alone. I am everywhere. I am you." The world around Supergirl seemed to distort as the creature spoke, her own memories flashing before her eyes. Moments of doubt, fear, loss. She felt herself falter, a strange pressure building in her chest. She wanted to fight, to charge at this creature and tear it apart, but the fear it sowed in her heart was real. "You are nothing," she spat, forcing herself to stand tall, to rise above the shadow it had cast over her. "We will stop you, whatever it takes." The creature laughed, a sound that echoed in the hollow of her soul. "We'll see, Supergirl. We'll see." And in that moment, she knew. The true battle had only just begun. The creature's laugh echoed in Supergirl's ears, each sound reverberating like a chill through her bones. The darkness around them seemed to pulse in response, as if the very air itself was alive, watching, waiting. Her heart raced, and her fists clenched at her sides, but the feeling of unease refused to loosen its grip. Dr. Strange stood beside her, his expression dark, his hands already weaving a protective barrier of light around them both. The creature in front of them wasn't just a manifestation of shadow, it was something far worse. It was a thing that could twist their fears into chains, and their minds into prisons. It was the very embodiment of despair. "You're not real," Supergirl whispered, forcing herself to step forward, her voice trembling despite the resolve that burned in her chest. "You can't be." The creature's glowing red eyes flicked toward her, and it took a slow, deliberate step forward, its form shifting like smoke in the wind. "Real," it purred. "Real is a matter of perspective. I exist as long as you believe I do. And I know your doubts, your deepest fears. You can't outrun what you fear the most." Suddenly, the world seemed to shift, the ground beneath their feet trembling with power. Supergirl's knees buckled, a wave of dizziness sweeping over her. Her surroundings blurred, as if the very fabric of reality was bending. She reached out to steady herself, but the darkness was closing in, pressing down on her mind, invading her thoughts. She saw flashes of her own past, her arrival on Earth, her parents' deaths, the times she had failed to save people. The faces of those she had failed, those she had loved, blurred before her eyes. "Stop it," Supergirl gasped, her breath coming in ragged bursts. "I'm not afraid of you." But even as she said it, she couldn't shake the unease settling deep in her chest. Was it true? Had she truly overcome her fears? Could she really protect this world when she had already failed so many times before? Dr. Strange's voice cut through the haze like a lifeline. "Don't listen to it, Kara." His voice was firm, commanding like an anchor in the storm. "This is just an illusion, a trick. It's trying to manipulate you. You have to believe in yourself." Supergirl's head snapped toward him, his words breaking through the fog. She was more than her past mistakes, more than the doubts that haunted her. The creature's words were nothing but lies, designed to weaken her resolve. She was stronger than that. "Focus," Dr. Strange urged, his voice rising. He was standing tall, his hands raised, weaving a counterspell, the air around him shimmering with raw power. "Trust in yourself. Trust in what you are capable of." Supergirl squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to focus. Slowly, the fog began to lift. The faces, the fears, they faded. The weight of the darkness lifted just enough for her to take a step forward. She opened her eyes, meeting the creature's gaze once more. "You think you can break me," she said, her voice no longer trembling. "I've been broken before, and I came back." The creature's expression flickered, its form rippling like a black flame. "We'll see," it hissed, its voice now tinged with frustration. It surged forward with a sudden, explosive movement, reaching for her with tendrils of shadow. But SuperGirl was ready. With a mighty leap, she shot into the air, her body glowing with the last of the energy from Dr. Strange's protective spell. She was faster than the shadow, stronger than the fear it tried to implant in her mind. Her fists collided with the dark mass, sending ripples through it, as if she were striking the very heart of the void itself. The creature recoiled, its tendrils shrieking in agony. For a brief moment, SuperGirl saw a flash of something, an entity, a being far older than she could comprehend, its features hidden in the abyss of the darkness. It was as if the creature was no longer a being, but an entire force, an ancient entity that fed on fear itself. "You cannot stop me, child," the creature growled, its form shifting again, its shape becoming more amorphous, more insidious. "Fear is infinite, and so am I." SuperGirl's heart pounded, but she didn't hesitate. "I'm not afraid of you," she repeated, her voice resolute, stronger now. "I'm not afraid of anything." With a roar, she plunged into the creature's form once more, her fists slamming against it with the force of a meteor. The creature's form cracked, splintering like glass, its dark tendrils writhing in desperation. "Dr. Strange," SuperGirl called out, her voice commanding. "Now." Dr. Strange's eyes flicked to her, his expression grim but determined. With a final, sharp motion of his hands, he unleashed a surge of magic, a pulse of energy that crackled and hummed like the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. The city of Metropolis lay still beneath the fading light of the moon. The air was thick with the remnants of magic and darkness, but it was peaceful now, the streets quiet after the battle. SuperGirl stood at the edge of the shattered rooftop, her silhouette outlined against the night sky, her breath slow and steady. She had done it. They had done it. The creature, whatever it was, had been defeated, its presence eradicated from the world. But even as the adrenaline left her body, and the wounds of the battle began to heal, a gnawing feeling remained. The victory felt hollow, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. She could still feel the weight of the creature's words echoing in her mind, a reminder that evil was not gone, it was only waiting. The fight had only shifted, and soon enough, it would come again. "You're thinking too much." Dr. Strange's voice broke through her thoughts, soft but firm. He stood behind her, his cloak billowing gently in the wind, the magic that had surrounded them now fading into the night. His eyes, though tired, held an unwavering resolve. "I'm thinking about what comes next," SuperGirl replied quietly, turning to face him. The distance between them, both physical and emotional, seemed to vanish in that moment. She had spent so long fighting alone, facing every challenge with nothing but her strength. But this time, with Dr. Strange by her side, something had shifted. There was a connection between them now, forged in the heat of battle, built on trust and shared loss. "You know we're not done yet," she added, her voice steady despite the exhaustion that weighed on her chest. "The creature was only a symptom. There's something else out there, something worse." Dr. Strange studied her, his gaze thoughtful, as though weighing her words carefully. He nodded, slowly at first, as if acknowledging a truth neither of them wanted to face. "I don't doubt it, but we've taken the first step, and that's enough. For now." SuperGirl glanced at him, a flicker of doubt passing across her features. "Enough? We can't just leave it. Not after everything that happened." "We don't leave it," Dr. Strange said, his voice calm but filled with a quiet strength. "We prepare for what's coming next. We learned from this, and we're ready when it returns." SuperGirl's chest tightened. She could feel it in her bones, the calm before the storm. They had won this round, but it was far from over. The rifts, the darkness, it wasn't just magic. It was something deeper, something primal. And sooner or later, it would return. The battle, though won, had only just begun. "I don't know if I'm ready," she confessed, her voice a whisper, as if admitting a secret she had never shared with anyone before. She had always been the strong one, the one who saved others. But now, standing here, in the quiet aftermath of everything, she wondered if she could truly keep going. Was she enough? Dr. Strange took a step closer, his gaze softening as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be ready for everything. You just have to take it one step at a time. And know you're not alone." Her heart fluttered at his words, at the sincerity in his eyes. There was a quiet understanding between them now, a bond that hadn't existed before. They weren't just allies anymore. They were something more. Something unspoken. SuperGirl allowed herself a small smile, the weight of her doubts lifting just enough to let in a glimmer of hope. "Thanks," she said quietly, her voice tinged with gratitude. I think I can do this, with you by my side." Dr. Strange's eyes flickered with something deeper, something almost unreadable, but before he could respond, the ground beneath them trembled, a soft hum rising from the distance. SuperGirl's senses flared to life, her heart skipping a beat. She glanced at Dr. Strange, who nodded in silent agreement. The calm had broken. "We'll be ready," he said, his voice resolute once again, the magic in his hands already flickering with power. "Let's go." Together, they leaped into the night, the weight of their purpose heavy in their hearts. The city stretched out beneath them, a silent witness to the storm that was yet to come. And in that moment, as they soared into the unknown, SuperGirl knew one thing for certain. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together.